Guys, I'm Mariah. I run Mystic Deviation at Tumblr.com and Tarot Discussions at Blogspot.com. So, as you guys have been probably tuning in to see, or may not have been, I've been doing some reviews of my tarot decks. Links will be below for all of the other reviews that I've done. So, today's tarot deck that I'm going to review is the Lo Scarabo, and I'm probably still saying that wrong, Tarot of the Pirates. This is my second Lo Scarabo deck. Again, the boxes, I say this in all of my videos, the boxes are not my favorite when they're these cardboard, but this is, I have found, a sturdier cardboard than what the Universal Rider Waite came in, and the Radiant Rider Waite Smith deck came in. So these are actually a little bit better, as you can tell, because I got this from a fellow Tumblr user who had never used it but did kind of have some wear on the edges. It's actually still pretty sturdy and hasn't been all too damaged in too many ways. So definitely enjoyed that. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this pamphlet, and most of the reason is because it's very much the traditional Rider-Waite Smith meanings. I'm not 100% sure that there is a spread in here. Like, I've seen a snippet talking about a sort of talking about it, but not really enough to do a tarot spread on. Kind of just giving you some advice when you go reading, but this may be your different one. It does have like this little snippet about the prophecy of the Cardamom of Tortuga. So it is kind of like a tarot spread, sort of. It's just like a deviation method. It has you separate the minor arcana and the major arcana. I'll write that up and place a link to that below, but it's not an actual spread, just kind of a little snippet of information. Like before with the Decameron Tarot, this comes in English, Italian, Spanish, French, and Dutch. Again, I really, really like that. One of the things that I kind of posted about on my Tumblr, if you guys follow me there, is this very interesting thing I hadn't noticed before. I didn't notice this with the Decameron Tarot, mostly because I wasn't looking at the words. I was more looking at the pictures. But the Fool translates, and I believe it's in Spanish. That's how I understood it. So it says El Loco, which actually I really, really liked for this card specifically. I'm kind of going to go ahead and just get into the card since I had this one up and I'm kind of talking about it. But this card translates to, the Fool translates in Spanish to the crazy. So I really, really like that he depicts the more Spanish version of what might be the full and traditional American meaning. So I really, really like that. So you don't see someone who's very innocent in this picture. You actually kind of see what seems like a very crazy kind of individual. He's older. He's kind of looks like he's on a raft by himself. So there is new beginnings. There is definitely the traditional tarot meaning to it, but it's definitely an interesting spin on a traditional Fool card. Like I've said before, I really like decks that take the traditional tarot and project them differently, like with the Housewives Tarot, and then instead of the Fool, it was the housewife. That's who was depicted. So I really liked that this was what looks like a very weathered man and looks very, very crazy indeed. I'm going to go ahead and show you, since I've got the back as well. This is what the back looks like. This is really beautiful. I like this blue color that's kind of all over the cards. They're very, very pretty. They're definitely good. The Decameron Tarot didn't have all big pictures, but this tarot deck does, so it doesn't ever get smaller. So I do love that about this deck. That was kind of one of my major complaints with the Decameron Tarot from Lo Scarabo. If you're interested in knowing who did the art for this tarot deck, is the graphics are done by Pietro Allegio, and then the instructions is Pepa Vigna, and then it's translated by Studio RGE. So, yeah, that's one of the first things that I kind of noticed about this deck was that the artwork was definitely different from the other Lost Garebo deck that I have. I guess Lost Garebo kind of just mass manufactures tarot decks, and excuse me for not knowing that. I am not somebody that keeps up with those kinds of things. These are the additional cards that you got with the deck. Again, I have a plan to recycle all of these cards eventually and make them into bookmarks or buttons, so that I have like a button collection of all of the tarot cards that I've ever owned, which I really like, and I really like those backs to that, so it might actually happen sooner than later. So some of the I pulled out roughly like 8 cards to kind of talk about. Well, 10 cards, including the Fool and one other one. Because I kind of want to show all of the deck, but at the same time, just kind of want to make some comments on what I liked about this deck. There isn't a whole lot that I didn't like, so I've kind of already talked about the things that I didn't like with the deck. So, without further ado, we're going to kind of go with what I'm going to kind of show you what each suit is represented by. Obviously, the Pentacles is going to be actually represented by money. I really loved this Pentacle card. It is the Ace. It is very beautiful. There's not a whole lot of close-ups, actually, and I think that this is one of the only close-ups throughout the deck, and I think it is just very beautiful and very startling. Some of the other aces are not as pretty as this. Aces are one of my favorite collection group of cards in the tarot decks. It tends to be very, very beautiful. I am such a huge fan of this type of imagery, where the ace is very bold, very ace-like to me. I think that the closer up, the intensity of the ace is definitely depicted through this version of the ace. That's kind of all I want to talk about that card. That card was just stood out to me when I was searching through my deck, so I definitely wanted to kind of discuss that. The Queen of Swords, all of the swords are represented by swords. All of the queens, I actually pulled her out for a reason other than the swords. All of the queens are younger women who are definitely busty. They are all significantly younger, and in most of them, they actually look very crazed. Something else I really liked about these decks were that the people are definitely not shying away. The artists are definitely not shying away from showing crazy individuals. Again, the artwork is very detailed too as well. None of them actually have a crown on. They are somewhere in the picture normally, but they don't actually have one on. Some are drinking, some are doing this kind of array of things. It's definitely one of my favorite cards. I definitely like when the queen is showcased a little bit older. I mean, a little bit younger. It definitely goes away from the traditional old lady in a chair kind of thing. With some of the other decks that aren't Rider-Waite-Smith. And then the Kings, which I pulled out, I actually have the swords, the King of Swords for this one as well. They are older gentlemen. They all have beards. They are kind of huskier, musclier. I definitely like that all of their shirts appear to be ripped and showing chest area. So this is what most of the males look like. They don't differ very much other than the background and what you're going to see, but they're all kind of big and bulky. Men. That was also the Ace or the King of Swords. I don't know if I said that. The wands are just going to be paddles. As you can see, there are women alone in some of the cards, and as well as men. There are varying scenes. There aren't too many that actually have more than one woman. I'm going to show you the only other card I believe that has more than one woman in it. But this is just the 10 of wands and just the paddles. So most of them you're going to see boats in, or just the paddles themselves, but most of them actually have boats as well, kind of them doing actions. And finally, the chalices or the cups are represented by barrels, which is in this picture. You kind of have somebody reining them in. This is a typical card that has one or two men. Some of them have more, but that's typically what you're going to see is 2 or more men in the photographs. Finally, I kind of have, now what I have out are just major arcana cards that I kind of wanted to talk about. And excuse my computer from beeping. I thought I had plugged it in. So these major arcana cards, all of the major arcana are very different in the way that they present the typical symbolism in them. For instance, um, the instead of the traditional lion that you see represented in the strength card, this has an alligator. I really, again, I still like the strength card you still see an animal that is very strong, very, very, very defiant and stubborn, being I'm assuming being pried open by some kind of pirate for something or another. So I definitely like this card. I like that there's a man and he's brute, and it's kind of just going with the theme of pirates. It definitely fits well within this deck. One of the first cards I go for, other than the aces, in the major arcana, is Death and the Moon. The Moon card is one of my favorite cards throughout this tarot deck. This is one of the reasons I was so excited to trade this deck with my lovely Tumblr follower. It is so beautiful. I love that it definitely encompasses what lies behind the dark. When I read the Moon card, I kind of see more of the things like what hides within the dark, the unknown, things that may come up at you that you have no idea about. So I definitely like this depiction of the moon. I think that it relates more to what I think and read and translate through this card. So it's definitely one of the better cards in the deck, one of my visually favorite cards besides the Ace of Pentacles. This is the Lover's card. The only reason I got it out is because it has more than one woman in it and a man, and I liked that this is definitely more of a open sort of sexual card than some of the traditional tarot that includes only one woman and one man. Even in the Decameron tarot, you only see one man and one woman. I really like that there's two women in this photograph, and that there are two men, but one man that's being focused on. That's definitely one of the best things about this deck. I like that when people incorporate non-traditional meanings into the tarot cards. Finally, the last thing I'm going to comment on, and this is just because there's no way I could go throughout this deck and not comment on the High Priestess card, who is a tarot reader. I definitely thought that was just a nice touch to this tarot deck. I don't think in any of the decks that I've reviewed so far, or any of the decks I actually own and have messed around with for a significant amount of time, have a card in which we are represented. So I definitely thought that the Tarot of the Pirates encompassed tarot readers into the High Priestess card, which just brings a whole new meaning to the High Priestess for me. I definitely like this version amongst one of my favorite versions of the High Priestess of all of the decks I've owned or even seen. So this is just kind of like the last thing that I wanted to talk about. She was definitely I believe she actually is reading his palm at the time, but there are tarot cards in the bottom of the card. I will actually try and find a link to this card for the description. I just loved this card, and I thought that would be a nice touch for the end of this video. If you guys aren't already following me, be sure to do that. I'll have links to everything down below. If you guys are really liking these, I feel free to comment down below. Either if you're watching this on the tarot discussions, or if you're actually watching this on YouTube, feel free to comment down below and kind of tell me what you thought. I will be providing, again, as always, the links to purchase this deck, where you can purchase it at. I'm not 100% sure if it's readily available, just because I got this in a trade instead of getting it throughout a regular means of buying a deck. So yeah, this video is kind of run to be a little bit longer than my other videos, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next one. Bye!